Once upon a time, in a sleepy town where the stars seemed to whisper secrets to the moon, there was a hidden garden that no one had ever seen, except for Lily. The garden only bloomed under the cover of darkness, its vibrant petals glowing softly in the night. No one knew of its existence, for it remained veiled by shadows, appearing only when the world slept. Lily, a curious and adventurous girl, stumbled upon it one warm summer evening as she wandered beneath the full moon. Her heart raced as the scent of unfamiliar flowers filled the air, sweet and enchanting. She knew something extraordinary was waiting just beyond the gate. As she pushed it open, a soft rustling filled the air, as if the garden itself was beckoning her inside. The moonlight revealed a kaleidoscope of colors, swirling and shimmering in the night air. But there was a sense of magic about this place, an energy so powerful it almost felt alive. Lily stepped forward, her bare feet brushing the cool grass beneath her. She looked around, her eyes wide with wonder, as the garden seemed to grow before her, reaching towards the sky in a glorious display of beauty. Little did she know, this magical place would soon become her secret sanctuary, one she would protect with her life. Lily's heart fluttered as she ventured deeper into the garden, careful not to disturb the delicate flowers glowing under the moon's gaze. Every step she took seemed to awaken the night. Petals shimmered and leaves trembled, as if they had been waiting for her arrival. She knelt beside a cluster of flowers that appeared to sparkle with a soft, otherworldly light. One particularly radiant bloom caught her attention. Its petals were a deep violet, tinged with silver, and it seemed to pulse with a rhythm that matched her own heartbeat. Without thinking, she reached out and gently touched the petals. To her surprise, the flower responded, softly vibrating as if it were alive, whispering in a voice that only she could hear. "Thank you for finding us," it murmured, its voice like the rustling of leaves in a summer breeze. Lily froze, eyes wide. She had never heard a flower speak before, let alone feel such warmth and magic from a simple touch. But there was no fear in her heart, only a sense of wonder and belonging. The flower spoke again, this time with more urgency. "You must guard this place, little one. It is precious, and many would do anything to steal its power." Lily nodded, her breath steady, as she absorbed the weight of the flower's words. The garden, with its secret magic, was hers to protect. And so, with newfound purpose, Lily promised herself that she would return every night, ensuring that its beauty and power remained safe. As the days passed, Lily found herself drawn to the garden each night. She could feel its magic calling to her, pulling her from her slumber to explore its depths. Each evening, the garden seemed to change, as though it knew her better with every visit. On one of her nightly strolls, Lily discovered something new, a tangle of vines that wound around a tree at the far edge of the garden. Unlike the other plants, these vines were dark, almost black, and they shimmered with an eerie light. As she approached, the vines began to sway, their movements graceful like a dance. Lily paused, her breath caught in her throat, as the vines whispered in unison. "The garden holds more than beauty, little one." The voice was soft yet commanding, and Lily shivered as the words sank in. "We are its guardians," the vines continued, "and we have watched over this land for centuries. But we are not the only ones who know of this place." The vines' words filled the air with a strange heaviness, as though a storm was brewing just beyond the horizon. Lily couldn't shake the feeling that the garden was not as peaceful as it appeared. Beneath its beauty lay something darker, something that wanted to remain hidden. She could feel the weight of this new knowledge, the knowledge that she wasn't the only one aware of the garden's magic. And for the first time, Lily wondered who else might be searching for it. The next evening, Lily couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that something was watching her. As she ventured deeper into the garden, the moon was hidden behind a veil of clouds, casting the space in shadows and making the familiar plants look ominous. She wrapped her arms around herself, trying to quiet her racing heart. She had always felt safe here, protected by the garden's magic. But tonight felt different. She walked along the winding path, her feet brushing against the soft grass, and then she heard it. A soft rustling like the sound of footsteps on dry leaves. Lily froze. Her eyes darted around, searching for the source. From behind a cluster of bushes, a figure emerged. Tall, cloaked in shadows, with a hood that obscured its face. The figure moved with a quiet grace, its presence almost ghostly, as if it didn't quite belong to the world Lily knew. It paused when it saw her, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Then, in a voice that was low and smooth like the wind, the figure spoke. "This garden is not meant for you." Lily took a step back, her heart thundering in her chest. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The figure did not answer directly, but instead tilted its head, eyes gleaming beneath the hood. "There are many who seek the power hidden here, child. The garden is not safe from those who would use it for their own gain." With those cryptic words, the figure vanished into the night, leaving Lily standing in the silence, her thoughts racing. The garden, once a place of wonder, now felt like a battleground. Lily couldn't shake the encounter from her mind. As the days passed, her curiosity about the garden deepened. Each night she returned, hoping for answers to the mysterious figure's warning. She knew now that the garden was far more than just a place of beauty. It was a source of untapped power, and there were those who would stop at nothing to steal it. But what exactly was this power? And why had the figure warned her to stay away? On one particular evening, Lily's thoughts were interrupted by a soft, melodic hum. Following the sound, she found herself at the base of a towering tree, its bark shimmering in the moonlight. The humming grew louder, more distinct, and as Lily stepped closer, she saw it. A single flower nestled among the roots, glowing with an ethereal light. Unlike the others, this flower seemed to pulse with energy, its petals swirling in a dance of color. She knelt down to admire it, and the flower responded, speaking in a voice that sounded like 1,000 whispers. "I am the heart of the garden," it said softly. "I hold the key to all that blooms here, the source of its magic. But beware, for the more you seek, the more danger you will face." Lily's heart raced, but she couldn't turn away. She had to understand. "Who is after the garden?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Those who seek power," the flower replied. "And they are closer than you think." As Lily stood up, her eyes scanning the darkened garden, she felt a deep sense of foreboding. The garden was beautiful, but it was also a place of great danger, a place she could no longer simply visit for the beauty alone. She had a responsibility now, one that would test her like never before. The following nights were filled with a restless unease. Lily returned to the garden each time, though her steps were more cautious, her senses sharper than ever before. The garden, once a sanctuary of magic and peace, now felt like a delicate balance between beauty and danger. The whispering vines, the heart of the garden, and the warning of the cloaked figure weighed heavily on her mind. She couldn't ignore the sense that she was being watched, and it was not just the familiar plants that now seemed to have their eyes on her. One evening, as she wandered further into the garden, Lily heard a soft crunching sound from behind her. Whipping around, her heart skipped a beat. A shadow moved among the trees, faint but unmistakable. Her breath caught in her throat, and for the first time she felt true fear. It was no longer the peaceful, inviting garden she had known. It had become a place of hidden eyes, silent watchers, and lingering threats. She called out into the darkness, her voice trembling. "Who's there?" For a moment, there was nothing but the rustle of leaves in the breeze. Then, from the corner of her vision, a figure stepped into view. It was tall and cloaked, the same figure she had seen before, but this time it wasn't alone. Behind it, more figures emerged from the shadows, their faces obscured, their movements fluid and purposeful. "You've been warned," the figure spoke, its voice colder than before. "You are trespassing where you should not be." The garden's magic is not for children. Lily stood her ground, her heart pounding, but she was no longer the frightened girl she had been. The garden had shown her its secrets, and now she understood its true purpose. She had to protect it. "I won't let you take it," she said, her voice firmer than she expected. The figure chuckled darkly. "We will see about that." Lily stood in the shadows, facing the figures that had emerged from the dark corners of the garden. The once peaceful sanctuary now felt like a battleground. Her pulse quickened as the cloaked figures drew closer, their footsteps silent on the soft earth. The leader, the same figure who had warned her before, stepped forward, a sly grin forming beneath the dark hood. "You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into, child," the figure said, his voice filled with cold amusement. Lily's hands trembled at her sides, but she clenched them into fists, determined not to show fear. The garden was hers to protect, and she would do whatever it took. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "The magic," the leader answered simply. "The heart of the garden is powerful, and it belongs to those who know how to wield it." He took a step closer, his gaze never leaving hers. "But you, little girl, cannot protect it forever." Lily's thoughts raced, trying to recall what the heart of the garden had told her. The figures in front of her were not just thieves. They were something far worse. They were hunters, skilled and ruthless, and they would stop at nothing to claim the garden's magic. She had to find a way to stop them. The air around them seemed to shimmer with tension, and Lily realized that it was no longer just her courage that was on the line. It was the very future of the garden. Without thinking, she took a step back, but her foot brushed against something, an old stone half buried in the soil. As it rolled away, the earth beneath her feet rumbled. The ground trembled, and a low, resonant hum filled the air. The garden was responding to her fear, to her resolve. The magic was awakening. The garden's magic surged through the air, vibrant and powerful, like the breath of a sleeping giant stirring to life. Lily felt the ground beneath her shift, the plants around her bending and swaying as if they had a life of their own. The cloaked figures took a step back, their expressions hidden, but Lily could sense their unease. The garden was no longer simply a place of beauty. It was a living, breathing force that had chosen her as its protector. "You can't control this," the leader of the figures sneered, his voice tinged with frustration. "The magic belongs to us, not to a child." But Lily could feel the power in her fingertips, the ancient force thrumming in the air around her. It was not the garden's magic alone that was responding. It was her own growing strength, a strength she had never known she possessed. As the figure took another step forward, something inside Lily shifted. She raised her hand, and the plants around her responded, vines and flowers reaching out, twisting and curling in an intricate dance. The figures stumbled back, their eyes wide with disbelief. "What are you doing?" one of them hissed, but Lily stood tall, her voice calm but resolute. "I'm protecting it," she said, her words steady as the ground beneath her feet. The garden's power pulsed with her, its energy surging into the air like a storm about to break. She knew she couldn't fight them alone. This was a battle she couldn't win with strength alone. But the garden had shown her something else. Its magic was not only about power, it was about connection. And with that connection, she had more strength than they could ever understand. The figures hesitated, and Lily saw their uncertainty. They had underestimated her, but it was too late for them to turn back now. The garden seemed to hold its breath as Lily stood at the center of the growing chaos, her hand outstretched. The vines, the flowers, the very air around her responded to her will, wrapping around her like a protective cloak. But even with the garden's magic at her side, Lily knew that it wasn't enough to simply defend herself. These thieves weren't afraid. They were determined, and they would stop at nothing to claim the heart of the garden for themselves. She could feel the tension in the air, like the calm before a storm. The leader of the figures stepped forward again, his eyes flashing with malice. "You think you can protect this place? You're just a girl," he sneered, his voice thick with contempt. But Lily's resolve did not waver. "I'm not just a girl," she said quietly, though the words carried an undeniable weight. The air around her shimmered with the garden's energy. "I am the one the garden has chosen, and I will protect it no matter the cost." The leader's expression darkened, and with a swift motion, he raised his hand. The shadows around him seemed to thicken, coiling like smoke, preparing for an attack. Lily braced herself, but just as he was about to strike, the garden erupted in a brilliant burst of light. Flowers bloomed with a sudden explosive force, their petals scattering like fireworks in the night sky. The vines twisted and writhed, their tendrils wrapping around the figures, binding them in place. The leader's eyes widened in shock as the garden fought back, a raw, unbridled power that had been dormant for so long now awakened. "You cannot have it," Lily whispered, her voice calm but unwavering. The garden's magic surged one last time, its energy spilling over, washing over the intruders like a cleansing wave. The thieves, caught in the grasp of the garden, were helpless. They struggled, but it was no use. The magic had them, and it would not let them go. As the magic of the garden swirled around her, Lily felt a deep sense of relief. The figures that had once seemed so menacing were now trapped, bound by the very power they sought to steal. The vines tightened their grip, and the plants around her hummed with energy, as though the garden itself was breathing a sigh of relief. But as the intruders struggled, Lily realized that the battle was not yet over. The garden had defended itself, but the leader, still at the heart of the struggle, wasn't defeated. His face twisted with rage as he struggled against the magical restraints. "You think you've won, little girl," he spat, his voice dripping with venom. "You've only delayed the inevitable. The magic will always find its way into the hands of those who deserve it." Lily's heart pounded as she watched him. She knew he was trying to break free, but she also knew that the garden's magic had to be sealed away, permanently. The heart of the garden, still glowing faintly in the distance, held the key to ending this struggle. Lily glanced toward it, her eyes narrowing with determination. It was time to act. Slowly, she stepped forward, the vines parting for her as though they trusted her completely. The leader's eyes followed her every movement, his sneer never fading. "You can't stop what's already been set in motion," he hissed. But Lily was no longer the scared, uncertain girl who had wandered into the garden weeks ago. She was its guardian now, and she understood its power. She reached out to the heart of the garden, her fingers brushing against its glowing petals. A warmth spread through her, and the air around her seemed to hum with the force of the garden's magic. "This power belongs to the earth," she whispered, her voice carrying over the struggle. "It belongs to the garden and to me." With a final surge of energy, she closed her hand around the heart of the garden. The light flared, bright and overwhelming, and for a moment everything was still. Then, with a final shudder, the magic wrapped itself around the intruders, binding them completely. The leader let out one last furious shout before he and his followers were swallowed by the garden's power. And just like that, they were gone. The garden fell silent as the last remnants of the intruders disappeared into the earth. Lily stood alone at the center of the magical space, her heart pounding with the remnants of adrenaline. The power of the heart of the garden still hummed in her veins, a steady pulse that reminded her of what she had just accomplished. The garden, once filled with tension and danger, now seemed peaceful again, its magic intact, its beauty undisturbed. But there was a weight in the air, a sense of finality that Lily couldn't ignore. She had defended the garden, but at what cost? She glanced down at her hands, still trembling from the energy she had called upon. The vines, which had once been so eager to protect, now seemed to watch her, as if waiting for her next move. "It's over," Lily whispered to herself. But the stillness didn't feel like the end. It felt like the beginning of something much deeper, something she wasn't yet ready to face. Slowly, she turned toward the heart of the garden. The flower that had once glowed with such intense power now seemed to pulse gently, as though it too was recovering from the storm that had just passed. She stepped forward and knelt beside it, her fingers brushing the petals once more. This time the flower didn't speak. Instead, it simply pulsed in response, a quiet affirmation of her connection to it. "Thank you," Lily murmured, her voice soft as she closed her eyes. The garden had shown her its magic, and in return, she had given it everything she had to protect it. But the magic was not just about power, it was about balance. And now, Lily understood that she had become a part of that balance. She could feel the garden's heartbeat in her own, its magic flowing through her like a steady stream. The bond between them was unbreakable now. She would guard it, not because she had to, but because it was in her heart. The garden had chosen her, and she had chosen it in return. The days following the battle felt like a dream. The garden seemed unchanged. Its flowers bloomed in the soft light of the moon, its vines twisted and climbed in their graceful dance. Yet to Lily everything felt different. The magic was still alive, but it had shifted. The weight of responsibility settled into her bones like an ancient truth, and she could feel the garden's presence in everything she did. It was no longer just a place she visited. It was a part of her as much as her own heartbeat. Each night she returned, but she did not walk the paths alone. The garden was with her, and she with it. As the weeks passed, she began to understand the deeper magic that the garden held. It was not just about protecting the plants or defending against those who sought to take it. It was about balance. Every flower, every vine, every whispering leaf had its place in the cycle of life and death. And Lily, in her newfound role as the garden's guardian, was the keeper of that balance. One evening, as she wandered through the garden, she paused beside the heart of the garden. The flower was still glowing softly, its petals radiating warmth that soothed her. For the first time, Lily understood what the garden had always meant to her. It wasn't just a magical place hidden from the world. It was a reflection of her own soul. The garden thrived on its magic, just as she thrived on the lessons it had taught her. She had learned to protect what she loved, to fight for it with all her heart, but she had also learned the importance of letting go. The magic of the garden was not hers to possess, it was hers to nurture. As Lily stood there, the wind whispered through the trees, and she knew that the garden's magic would live on, not just in its flowers but in her. She was no longer just the girl who had stumbled upon a hidden garden. She was its protector, its guardian, and its heart. Lily's connection to the garden grew with each passing day. The world around her seemed to fall away as the garden became her sole focus. The magic that had once felt overwhelming now felt like a comforting embrace. The flowers whispered to her in their own language. The vines seemed to curl gently around her fingers when she reached out, and the wind carried messages she could almost understand. Yet, even with all the peace the garden brought, Lily never forgot the warning of the cloaked figure. The thieves were not gone. They were only waiting, lurking in the shadows, waiting for an opportunity to return. The garden's magic was too powerful, too precious, and Lily knew that it would always be at risk. But that didn't scare her. Instead, it fueled her determination to protect this place that had become her heart. One night, as Lily walked through the now familiar paths, she spotted something new. A flower unlike any she had seen before bloomed at the edge of the garden, its petals shimmering with an iridescent glow. It was beautiful, but there was something mysterious about it. A hidden power radiated from the flower, more intense than any other Lily had encountered. She crouched down to inspect it, her fingers brushing the delicate petals. As soon as she touched the flower, a flash of light filled her vision, and a voice echoed in her mind. "This is the final test, Guardian." The voice was soft, yet filled with authority, and it made Lily's heart race. Only when you embrace the full power of the garden can you protect it from those who would destroy it. The light faded, and Lily was left kneeling by the flower, her heart pounding. The garden was asking something of her, something more than she had ever imagined. She had protected it with everything she had, but now she had to embrace its deepest secrets. Lily took a deep breath, and in that moment, she realized that her journey was far from over. The magic of the garden was still growing, and she was the one who would tend it. She was ready. The following nights were filled with strange dreams and restless sleep. Lily's mind swirled with the words spoken by the voice in her vision. Embrace the full power of the garden. What did it mean? What was this final test the garden was asking of her? She wandered the paths in the deep of the night, the moon casting pale light over everything, but nothing seemed to provide the answers she needed. The garden had given her so much, its beauty, its magic, and its secrets. It had allowed her to protect it, to defend it against those who sought to claim its power. But now it was asking her for something more. The flower she had touched, the one with the iridescent glow, remained fresh in her memory. It had seemed to pulse with a strange energy, an energy that Lily had never felt before. She knew that she had to return to it. There was something there that she still didn't understand. The night after the dream, Lily ventured back to the flower's resting place. She found it again, glowing softly at the edge of the garden, bathed in a mysterious light. This time, there was no hesitation in her movements. She knelt down beside the flower, her heart steady as she reached out and gently touched its petals once more. The moment her fingers made contact, the garden seemed to exhale. The magic that surrounded her was powerful, more so than she had ever felt before, and she could sense the deep connection between herself and the earth beneath her. A soft whisper filled the air, the garden's voice mingling with the wind. You are the keeper of this magic now, it said, and the time has come for you to decide how to wield it. Lily's heart swelled, and for the first time, she understood the full weight of what had been entrusted to her. She wasn't just the protector of the garden. She was its guardian, its vessel, and its guide. The power of the garden was hers to share, to cultivate, and to preserve. And it would be her responsibility to ensure that its magic would never fall into the wrong hands again. The air seemed to hum with anticipation as Lily stood there, her fingers still resting on the iridescent flower. The garden felt alive, its energy swirling around her like a symphony of whispered secrets and ancient magic. Lily felt a profound shift inside herself. It was as if the garden's power had merged with her own essence, its rhythm now beating in harmony with her heart. The realization struck her like a bolt of lightning. She wasn't merely a protector. She was part of the garden itself, a living extension of its magic. And with that understanding came the true weight of the task before her. The magic had chosen her not just to defend the garden, but to shape its future. The cloaked figures, the thieves who had tried to steal the garden's power, had underestimated its true nature. It was not something to be possessed or controlled. It was something to be nurtured, to be shared, and to be passed down through the generations. And Lily knew now that it was her duty to ensure that the garden's magic would never fall into the wrong hands again. As she stood there, a deep calm washed over her. She had feared what might happen if the magic was stolen, but now she understood. The garden was not just a place. It was a living, breathing force that would fight for itself. It would find a way to protect its secrets, even if that meant hiding them from the world. Lily closed her eyes, taking in the magic that surrounded her. The soft rustling of the leaves, the gentle glow of the flowers, the hum of the vines. Everything spoke to her now. The garden was at peace, and so was she. But the peace was fragile, and Lily understood that it was her responsibility to guard it, not just from those who sought to steal it, but from the darker forces within herself that might try to control it. The magic of the garden was a gift, but it was also a test. And Lily had passed. In the days that followed, Lily's role as the garden's guardian deepened. The night air felt different now, charged with magic, yet peaceful in its stillness. Every step Lily took through the garden was filled with purpose. She no longer wandered aimlessly. She moved with the rhythm of the land, her connection to it stronger than ever. The garden had become a part of her, and she had become a part of it. As the seasons began to change, so did the garden. Flowers that once bloomed only in the dark of night began to appear during the day, their petals open to the sunlight. The vines, once twisted in shadow, now grew in beautiful spirals, reaching for the sky as if they too were trying to embrace the world beyond. But Lily knew this transformation was not without its price. The garden had shown her its deepest secrets, had entrusted her with its most precious power. And with that trust came responsibility. She couldn't help but feel that the garden's magic was fragile, that it could easily slip through her fingers if she wasn't careful. The thought of losing it, of failing to protect it from those who would seek to use it for their own gain, haunted her. One evening, as Lily wandered near the edge of the garden, she noticed something strange. The flowers near the farthest corner of the garden, those that had once glowed in the night, had begun to wilt. Their vibrant colors faded, their leaves curled, and their once strong stems weakened. Alarmed, Lily hurried over to investigate. As she knelt beside the dying flowers, she realized that the garden's magic was slowly fading in this corner. A sense of dread filled her heart. This was no ordinary wilting. Something was wrong. The garden was sick, and she could feel its pain. It was as if the very heart of the garden was beginning to wither. And in that moment, Lily understood that her greatest challenge was yet to come. The magic that had been entrusted to her needed to be protected not just from outside threats, but from the forces of decay that could arise from within. The wilting flowers seemed to pulse with an unnatural stillness, their petals hanging limp as if weighed down by an invisible force. Lily's heart ached as she gazed at the garden, her garden in distress. She knelt by the flowers, her fingertips brushing the edges of the wilted petals, and a surge of panic gripped her. She could feel the garden's magic slipping away, its vibrant energy fading like the last remnants of sunlight before dusk. This was not just a natural change, it was something more, something deeper, something that threatened to destroy everything the garden had ever been. Lily closed her eyes, taking a deep breath as she reached out to the heart of the garden. The flower's gentle glow seemed to beckon her, but even its light seemed dimmer, weakened by the spreading decay. "What is happening?" Lily whispered into the night, the words barely escaping her lips. The wind responded, but instead of the usual soft whispers of leaves and petals, there was an eerie silence. It was as though the garden itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to change. A sudden chill swept through the air, and Lily opened her eyes. In the distance, near the base of the ancient tree, she saw a figure standing motionless. It was cloaked like the one who had warned her before, but this figure was different. This one radiated an aura of darkness, and as it turned toward her, Lily felt a shiver run down her spine. She had felt this presence before, the same presence that had haunted her thoughts, the same presence that had tried to claim the garden's magic. The figure's voice rang out, clear and cold, cutting through the stillness. "The garden's magic is dying, child. You have failed to protect it." Lily stood tall, her heart racing, but she refused to back down. "No," she said, her voice firm. "I haven't failed. The garden will survive." The figure chuckled darkly, stepping closer. "The magic is mine to take, and you can't stop it. You never could." The figure's words hung in the air like a shadow, but Lily's resolve did not waver. The coldness in the figure's voice echoed in her chest, and a knot of fear tightened in her stomach, but she knew now that fear was not enough to stop her. She was the garden's guardian. No matter what it took, she would protect it. She reached out, her hand trembling slightly as the power of the garden surged through her, trying to restore the balance that had been disturbed. The vines around her seemed to respond, their tendrils creeping forward, reaching toward the figure, but they stopped short. The figure raised a hand, and the vines froze, caught in an unseen force. "You are powerless against me, child," the figure sneered, stepping closer. "The magic of the garden is already mine. You are just too blind to see it." But Lily wasn't listening to the figure anymore. She was listening to the garden. She could feel its pulse beneath her feet, its magic humming in her veins, urging her to act. It was a quiet, gentle push, a reminder that the garden's power wasn't just about force, it was about balance. She closed her eyes and focused on that balance, feeling the garden's rhythm and her own heart beating in time with it. Slowly, she raised her hands, and as if responding to her will, the garden's magic swirled around her like a storm. The figure hesitated, its shadow flickering as if unsure of its next move. Lily's voice, calm and steady, broke the silence. "The garden will not die, not as long as I am here to protect it." With that, she reached out, her arms wide as the power of the garden surged to meet her. The flowers began to bloom once again, their petals unfurling in the moonlight, vibrant and full of life. The vines, once frozen, began to stir, weaving together like threads of light. The garden was fighting back, and Lily was its heart, its lifeblood. The figure recoiled as the garden's magic enveloped it, pushing it back. "You cannot take what you cannot control," Lily said, her voice growing stronger with every word. The figure, now writhing in the garden's power, let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "We shall see," it hissed, its form beginning to dissolve into the night. The figure's form slowly melted into the shadows, as though the garden itself had absorbed it, its dark presence fading into the earth. Lily stood in the center of the garden, her body still vibrating with the energy of the battle she had just fought. The garden had won, but it had come at a cost. The flowers glowed again, their brilliance returning as if the magic had been restored, but Lily could still feel the weight of what had nearly been lost. Her heart pounded as she surveyed the once dying flowers now fully bloomed, their vibrant colors illuminating the garden like a living masterpiece. The garden was healing, but the magic had been altered. It had been tested, stretched to its limits, and had come out stronger but different. The very air around her seemed to hum with a new energy, one that was both familiar and strange. She walked slowly through the garden, her footsteps soft on the earth, and as she passed the heart of the garden, she noticed that it too had changed. The flower glowed even brighter now, its petals radiant with a golden light that seemed to pulse with life. It was no longer just a source of magic, it was a symbol of the garden's survival. Lily knelt before it, placing her hand gently on the ground, feeling the heartbeat of the earth beneath her palm. "We did it," she whispered, as if the garden could hear her, as if it could understand. A soft breeze stirred the air, and the garden seemed to respond, the leaves rustling in a quiet acknowledgement. The night felt different now, calmer, more serene. The dark presence that had threatened it was gone, and in its place was a sense of peace that Lily had never felt before. She understood now that the garden was not just a place of magic. It was a living entity, one that thrived on balance, on growth, and on protection. She had given everything to defend it, and in return, it had given her something even more precious, the knowledge that the garden's power was not something to be controlled. It was something to be cherished. Lily stood, the garden's magic swirling around her, and smiled. She was no longer just its guardian. She was its caretaker, its friend, and its heart. As the weeks passed, the garden blossomed in ways Lily had never imagined. It was no longer just a secret space tucked away in the shadows of the night. It was a living testament to everything she had fought for, everything she had learned. The flowers glowed with a soft, welcoming light, blooming both in the light of day and under the moon's gaze. The vines, once twisted and gnarled, now moved with a gentle grace, their leaves shimmering like delicate emeralds. Even the air felt different, lighter, as though the magic that had once been hidden deep in the soil was now flowing freely, weaving its way into every corner of the garden. And Lily, she had changed too. She had grown stronger, more confident, and more attuned to the rhythm of the garden. She no longer feared the unknown magic that had once seemed so overwhelming. Instead, she embraced it, knowing that it was not hers to possess, but to protect, to share, and to nurture. She spent her nights wandering through the paths, listening to the soft whispers of the flowers and the gentle hum of the wind. Sometimes, when she closed her eyes, she could hear the heartbeat of the garden in her own chest, a reminder that they were one and the same. The garden had become her home, her sanctuary, a place where she had discovered the depths of her own strength. And as she stood at its heart one evening, gazing at the stars above, Lily knew that she would never leave. The garden was her responsibility, yes, but it was also her gift, one she would protect for as long as she lived. The moonlight bathed her in a soft glow, and she whispered into the quiet night, "Thank you." The wind, as if in response, rustled the leaves and carried her words into the stars, where they would echo for eternity. The garden had chosen her, and she had chosen it in return. Together they would grow, forever intertwined. And so, Lily's journey as the guardian of the secret garden continued, her heart forever intertwined with its magic. The garden, now thriving and protected, flourished under her care, blooming with vibrant life and energy. As the stars glimmered above, she stood in the quiet peace she had fought so hard to preserve. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying a sense of calm that soothed her soul. With the garden safe, Lily smiled, knowing that no matter what came next, she would always be its keeper. And in the embrace of the night, she felt truly at home. Sweet dreams.